So I'm making this video for two reasons. One is that I'm more convinced than ever that Bernie is the best candidate running for the Democratic nomination by far. And two, well, to be honest, this really is a video about Medicare-for-All. And it's a video about a huge blind spot that I think Bernie has. And to be honest, every progressive that talks about this, from what I've seen, has in when they're talking about Medicare-for-All and what it means for Americans, even if they've already got coverage. So I'm British. I live in the UK. I've never lived in America. I love the United States. I love so many things about it. And I've recently went on holiday and actually met two Americans whilst I was away, and I think successfully convinced them to vote for Bernie in the primary. And the way I did it was actually really, really easy. And I talked about Medicare-for-All, and I talked about the qualitative effect it would have on their lives rather than the quantitative effect. And what I mean by that is Bernie talks about the amount of money that's going to be saved, which he should, because the lie is constantly put out there that it's going to cost more money. The only difference is that the money will be taken through tax rather than as a premium. So you'll pay it to the government rather than a private insurance company, which is somehow intrinsically worse for a lot of people. I don't know why. And he talks about numbers and things like that. But if you're an American listening to this, all right, this is really, really difficult for an American to even conceptualize this. As a European, or to be honest, as somebody that lives in a developed country that isn't the United States, it's not, because we're just used to this. But I just want you to imagine something, okay? Imagine you wake up one day and you are just covered. Imagine you wake up and you and your partner and your children and your parents and everybody you know, your friends, your co-workers, you are just covered. You've just got coverage. You're insured. You have health insurance. The end. You never again in your life have to worry about open enrollment. You never again in your life have to worry about whether or not your children are covered on your policy. You never again have to worry about your copay or your deductible. The absurd situation where you're paying thousands of dollars a year, tens of thousands of dollars a year for premiums. But if you ever actually go and use or access healthcare, you have to pay a deductible or a copay on top of it. So you pay the premium and then you pay for the healthcare that you access anyway. I mean, it's awful. So you never again have to worry about paying a premium. You never again have to worry about copays or deductibles. You're just covered. There's no upfront cost whatsoever. And I want you to think about what that means for your life in terms of stress, in terms of the amount of time that you might otherwise spend on the phone to your insurance company. For a Brit, we lament having to speak to insurers because we know if it's your car insurer or your house insurance, whatever it is, they will do whatever they have to do to not pay out because it is in their interest to act like that. I had a friend that had a bolt of lightning strike his house and blow most of the electrical equipment in his house. And the insurer tried to refuse to pay out on the grounds that the lightning strike was, quote, an act of God. And it's impossible for us to conceive of having to go through the stress of things like that for our healthcare. It's unthinkable, as it should be. For me, if I get injured or ill, or I'm not sure something might be wrong, you know what I do? I go to the hospital. I phone up my doctor and I make an appointment. I go to the doctor. I get seen. I leave. Do you know how many forms I fill in? 0. Do you know how much money I give them? 0. It's crazy, isn't it? I don't spend any time on the phone to my insurance company. I don't spend any time worrying about whether or not I'm going to have coverage or whether or not my coverage will cover the specific diagnosis. I don't have to worry about changing my job because my health insurance is tied to my job. I just don't worry about it. I don't spend any time thinking about it at all. Think about what that means for your life, because that's what Medicare for All is. It's life-changing. Excuse me. And I want you to think about another thing. I want you to think about, and that's what Medicare for All is, okay? It's comprehensive coverage for everybody in the country. Now, it's quite difficult, again, to conceptualize this because you've always paid private premiums. Like, what is this? Well, no other country in the world relies on private insurance to give people access to healthcare. And what Bernie Sanders is proposing is simply saying, rather than you getting your healthcare through a private insurance company, the government is going to administer insurance. That's it. You'll still be able to see the same doctor, more doctors than you were before, actually. You'll still be able to go to the same hospitals. The only difference you will see in terms of accessing the healthcare is that you will have a Medicare card, and you will not have to worry about filling in your insurance paperwork when you go to the doctor, which is an incredible change. And when we're talking about the American dream, the pursuit of happiness, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, I want you to think about what it means for your freedom as an individual, your liberty, and your ability to pursue happiness when you never again have to spend one single minute of your life arguing with your insurer about whether or not your child's cancer is covered under your policy. You never have to spend another minute worrying about whether or not you're going to be able to pay your health insurance premium this month, or whether or not you're going to have to pay a deductible or a copay on some medicine that you desperately need, or the stress of knowing that a family member is desperately ill and they've reached their lifetime cap, or they've got a pre-existing condition, which thankfully, due to the ACA, is barely covered, but that's a ticking time bomb, unfortunately, with Donald Trump in the White House. So if healthcare is something that you spend a significant amount of your day worrying about, there is one candidate for you to vote for 2020, and his name's Bernie Sanders. Now, this is the second part, okay? Because obviously you've got Kamala, you've got Elizabeth, you've got Bill de Blasio. These are the people that have committed to Medicare for All. You've got other people like John Delaney who say it's ridiculous. I think his arguments are really disgracefully dishonest. But of all the people that are saying they support Medicare for All, again, there's only one person that's even worth thinking about, in my opinion, and that's Bernie. Why is that? Well, Kamala Harris, I'm actually tempted to dismiss out of hand, but she's a very, very shrewd operator, and that would be a terrible mistake. But let's keep it real. She signed on to Medicare for All after she decided to run for president. She'd never said anything about it before. She'd never expressed any support for it before. And after her first CNN town hall, when she said that she would do away with private insurance, the very next day, she backtracked. The first Democratic debate, when she obliterated Joe Biden, she once again put her hand up to say that she would give up her private health insurance for it, which was implied that she would get rid of private health insurance. And then again, the next day, she flip-flopped again and said no. She's also lying about the fact that it would require a middle-class tax hike, which it would, which Bernie is honest about. But of course, it would result in a net saving of something like $5,000 a year for the average family. Elizabeth Warren, who is a phenomenal presidential candidate, let's keep it real, she is superb. But on this issue, she's not. Why do I say that? Well, similar to Kamala, she sponsored Bernie's Medicare for All bill. which she should have done, and she gave a phenomenal speech, quite moving actually, when they launched the Medicare-for-All bill, or they introduced it. But as soon as she started running for president, something very strange happened. She flip-flopped, and she suddenly wasn't talking about healthcare for a while, and she did the same trope where she said, let's not forget that the goal here is universal coverage for everybody at an affordable rate. Well, if that's what you believe, you have to support Medicare for All, which she's now come back around to saying she supports. Great. But you have to remember one thing. Medicare for All is going to lead to the end of the private health insurance industry, okay? The law does not specifically outlaw supplemental private health insurance, but it does explicitly say that the insurance companies will not be allowed to offer insurance for things that are covered under Medicare for All, which is great. So it will mean that 98% of private insurance will disappear. That means a lot of companies that make a lot of money are going to disappear, okay? Now, I want you to think about the amount of political pressure that is going to be placed on any candidate that's running for the presidency to not follow through with Medicare for All. Why do you think that no one else is supporting it apart from these guys? Do you think it's because they really think that Medicare for America or the Affordable Care Act is the best we can do? Don't be silly. Joe Biden, his campaign is being run by a big pharma and healthcare industry lobbyist. And funnily enough, he opposes Medicare for All. Crazy. Given the intense political pressure that's going to be placed upon anybody that even whispers slight support for Medicare for All, you need somebody that believes in it 1,000%. You need somebody that's been talking about this for decades and has not wavered 1 inch in their support for it. There's only one candidate, and there probably will only be one candidate for a generation that you can say that about. It's not Kamala Harris. It's not Elizabeth Warren. It's not Bill de Blasio. It's Bernie Sanders, okay? And we are going to need somebody to go to war for Medicare for All against these people and win. Now, getting Bernie into the presidency is only stage 1. If you want to get the bill passed, you need to get it through the House, and you need to get it through the Senate. 2 things that will be very, 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 very difficult. But you know what Bernie said? He is going to go and take this fight to the home states of the people that oppose it. Is Elizabeth Warren saying that? No. Is Kamala Harris saying that? Don't be silly. Of course not. Bill de Blasio, I mean, I don't even care about him because he's not really got any chance of winning. But Bernie's the guy. Bernie is the guy. Is he old? Yes. Is he white? Yes. But he is the only person that we can trust to really, really fight for this. And if there's any chance that it's actually going to get passed, he is the way it's going to happen. So that's what we need to say about Medicare for All. And that's why we need to support Bernie to get it done. Okay, peace out. Bernie 2020, motherfucker.